We're going to be talking about some of the new proposals passed by the Trump administration in terms of the multifamily for the large institutions, and just the recent pass also on like the credit cards and like it's going to affect the everyday person and what to expect and what other things to watch out for when it comes to that. You want to just get right into it, Anthony?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Start with the multi-family ban first. I want to first talk about that because there's a lot of perspectives on the internet, and I think some of them don't really make sense. So I'm going to
For
share
sure.
my own 2 cents on it. So for those of you that might not know, there's a recent proposal made by Donald Trump to ban large institutions from essentially buying like single-family homes.
Yeah.
The concept, when you hear a lot of people talk about it, is it's going to help the individual trying to buy a single family home and like the family trying to buy a single family home. It's going to help them be able to afford it better, right? And when I hear that, to me, that doesn't really make too much sense in terms of that perspective. I could see it making sense in other perspectives, but people to be saying that all of a sudden the housing crisis is going to be fixed because Trump puts a ban on single family homes for like institutional investors doesn't make sense because they only own like less than 5% of the total single family homes, right? So if you actually do the math on it, which sometimes people don't like doing for whatever reason, I don't like the numbers are never going to plan out to the way where there's a lot more people that could buy a home because there is this new ban and big institutions can't buy it. I guess what do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was putting in the chat. I'm like, how many big investors are actually buying these homes? But I guess the goal of the bill would be to stop a real life monopoly because that's one of the funner games, especially when you own all the homes. So what
Yeah,
he's trying to do is cut down on the big corporations with their big amount of dollars per year that they receive, much wiping out the smallest player on the game, and exactly what you do in Monopoly. So he's trying to give the little guy a fighting chance. But at the end of the day, how much of a difference is, let's say, a few major players going to make in the housing price?
yeah,
Whether you can qualify now or, let's say, qualify within, let's say, give it 5 years for it to actually give it some impact. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference to the smallest people, like your first time home buyers. But I see someone like a business, a realtor that invest into fix and flips or buy and holds that actually has a little bit of capital. They have a business that's been doing this for a few years that knows what houses to buy and not to buy. They might see the effect a little bit down the line because now everything on the block is not getting purchased by, let's say, the biggest player. Um, they might be able to strategize or see a benefit in more opportunity, if you would.
yeah. So, yeah, and that's kind of the perspective I came up with too. Is I see it from the perspective of just preventing a monopoly from happening, from one person eventually owning all the assets, which I guess spread it up. If you look at a long period of time,
It could
like you
happen,
look at a
yeah.
company like BlackRock or like some of these really big multi-billion-dollar asset like holding companies, like could potentially do that over enough time, right?
Yeah.
The actual impact of what it's going to have for everyday families today is almost none, in my opinion, right? I don't
Hmm.
think the person that can't buy a home, they're still not going to be able to buy a home,
Yeah.
right? So to hear people like cheering, like, yo, like finally the big guys don't, like your life is still going to be the same, unfortunately, unless
Hmm.
you make the change in terms of improving yourself, making more money, saving more money, or whatever it is. You're still going to have the same problems that are going to tomorrow, the next day, whatever it is. If you're not prepared, there's still no law that's going to be passed that's going to automatically propel you into freedom.
Exactly. Yeah. Objective is still going to be the same as far as you still have to balance your own finances at the primary level of making more than you actually spend and then being able to save the percentage of your income as you increase because we all have jobs and they all have some type of incentive or pay grade scale to increase over some time. But being smart enough to not only spend all the additional funds because now you're actually cutting into your wealth, but saving a little bit more percentage wise or even dollar amount wise, whichever one's easier. Make sure that you have the best opportunity to buy, whether it be real estate or other investments, but making yourself less stress and having more cash on hand to have options at the end of the day.
And the interesting thing is, if you actually look at like the companies like BlackRock that were using those strategies, like stock recently went down. And part of my thought and reason why that is not just necessarily like people being scared, like, okay, the market is going down because the new law is passed. Like, I don't think it's
Yeah.
just that. I think it's also when you look at these companies, they have business models, right?
Yeah.
They have teams operating with certain business models. Probably had, I would assume, a company like BlackRock, they had a team of expert investors trying to find these single family homes to buy at market price, right? And they've built their like infrastructure on that. And when there's all of a sudden a new law that potentially stops them from doing that, and they've invested millions of dollars into this team, that makes them lose a lot of money and potentially lead them to probably laying off a lot of people too as well, I would think, because that division of the team is no longer necessary because they can't execute on the strategy that they originally intended on doing because of a government stop on it.
Exactly. And real estate's one of the biggest creators of wealth. And it gives you a big tax burden. I mean, tax, not burden, but it helps you out on taxes every year just by investing it into that asset class. And let's say not only them internally, like that specific division being shut down or decreased, also the investors that put their money into a corporation like BlackRock or the other few big companies that they're pretty much given the limitation on. Now that's less money I feel I want to invest with you because that was a huge part of your, not, I don't want to say huge, but that was a factor to your income. And now that being decreased, we might have other investments elsewhere.
Yeah, percent. We talked a little bit about the kind of single family thing. Let's kind of get into the other one that people are kind of about, which is the laws against interest on credit cards.
Yeah.
So you guys are new to this. Recently passed capping the amount that credit card companies can charge. They're capping it from what it is now from like 24% or sometimes even higher to 10%. So I guess
Yeah.
at first glance, what do you think about like that type of law getting passed?
Now that just off the top of the head, I wonder if there was a cap at like a current interest, like throughout all the companies, because from what I've known, ever since when I was young, like my parents had credit cards, obviously, and I remember them. I'm not sure how I remember this, but I remember like numbers being in the teens, like the higher teens and maybe even the 20s. But now I'm seeing credit cards in the 30s to where that just put the idea into my head. Is there actually a limit currently that is stopping them, or is it just competitive offers
Rough
your
price.
to your actual clients? But I think that'll be a big tool because that's one of the biggest. The U.S. is one of the biggest debtors in the whole entire world, and then we just follow the same principles as like the government, as like the everyday person just gets into debt just because they're trying to keep up with the Joneses, and you're cutting that percentage in half for sure, maybe even more than half on some of these credit cards because I see credit cards up to 30%, and that is a, I don't want to say a relief because, well, I guess it is a relief for people that have a bad mindset of how to utilize a credit card in the first place. But if you're a person that is responsible with your credit cards, now it gives you a little bit more ways to kind of arbitrage things. If you're getting higher returns than 10%, you can kind of utilize the credit card for more than just the points and the time delay of the actual money to get your income. But it puts more options on the board, if you will.
Yeah, I can see it going like a good and a bad thing potentially, kind of both at
Yep.
the same time. I think it's good in the sense that like there's a lack of financial literacy in the U.S., so capping the interest is going to prevent people from like creating their own demise, right? So
Yeah.
the good thing that comes out of it. The bad thing is, when you limit the amount like these banks can charge and some of these credit card companies can charge, they good chance that they might limit the actual amount of credit that people have access to.
True.
And me personally, like I don't really have spending problems, so I love using credit cards. It's just
Yep.
basically free money for me. If I'm gonna spend money anyways, I might as well get money back and also improve my credit along the way of doing it, right?
Exactly.
So if they take my credit card from like after 20,000 they lower it to 2,000, like I'm kind of upset, not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's just like the access to credit is always a nice thing to have, especially if you're like a business owner or someone that's like more entrepreneurial. Access to credit can make a difference for sure,
Yeah.
especially like for different opportunities that you might be able to take advantage of that you otherwise wouldn't. So
And
yeah, I
and
can be seeing it being like a good and a bad thing in a way.
yeah, at first glance, when I hear that, I think it might create other opportunities for, let's say, business partnerships between companies. Because now, if they do limit credit, you got to kind of think outside the box of other ways to scale your business, and whether that be partnership or That's just what immediately came to my mind. But then it kind of also puts the banks and gives them like a governor on how much they can charge for credit, because I feel like 30% is a little overboard. Some people
Yeah.
don't even pay that in taxes annually, and
I mean, I
you're
guess
pretty
I never noticed it because I never end up paying that because I just pay it off right away. And
for
that's really how
sure.
you should be using your credit card. It's just almost like cash, right? Like
Yep.
if you don't have the cash, you shouldn't be using
Don't.
credit for it. So,
But I
um,
think that's exactly who the bill is helping out. That person that is trying to get their either improve their credit or get like their first credit card, and they're not sure of how to utilize, let's say, their finances quite yet, and they do get in trouble of overspending or being over leveraged. And most of the time you can kind of tell by a person's credit score already, whether it be 500, 600, 700, what type of financial literacy they currently have, or their actual habits of their finances, where the money's going. And they usually give the worst credit interest to the people that already know. They can pretty much see the writing on the wall that they're not too great of a saver, or
mhm,
they're overspending. And it's one of those things where it's like, how can you punish the people that need the most help, if that makes sense? I almost feel like, when I say that out loud, I almost think of like the old Robin Hood. You almost kind of want to help the most needy out. But
mhm,
I think it's just one of those things that they're just going to cap it off. And for banks, that may be one of their biggest pieces on like ledger, as far as, I don't want to say biggest, but one of the major interest rates that they can count on. They're kind of be scaling that back. So I think it'll
mhm,
be their job to, number one, give a credit card to somebody that's actually financially responsible. So they're going to have to do better due diligence on their end of who they lend to, as well as, like you said, the credit amount, where maybe instead of giving certain credit limits to everyone, they only give the highest limits to people like yourself who spend responsibly and they've actually proven themselves. So they might increase more credit earlier just because they see your results. So it's one of those things we're gonna have to see how it plays out. But as of now, I think it'll be beneficial to consumer, and then possibly even another business model for businesses, or even a business to come out of it that gives you a leverage opportunity to lend your own capital.
But the fundamentals never change. You're gonna still have to spend less than you make. You're still gonna have
This is
to
true.
work hard at your job, make sure you're improving yourself, learn more,
Skills.
understand business and understand money. These are the things that are gonna lead you to get ahead.
Hmm.
Regardless of whatever laws that are passed, like by any administration, like it's not gonna save you from financial ignorance, right? So, like people cheering for these things, these might be good things, to some extent, but it's only limited, right? The main
Exactly.
difference is going to be what you do in your life and what decisions you make and what investments you make. Those are the things that are really going to move the needle forward when it comes to saving and investing for your future and getting ahead, right?
For
But
sure.
but yeah, just wanted to hop on live and just share a little bit about some of the recent laws and keep some of our insights on it. But I guess where is the easiest place to find you, Ant, if they want to learn about different financial services and products that you offer and help people with?
Yep. So it'll be Anthony Enriquez on all major platforms: YouTube, TikTok. I was gonna say Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We'll be on there pretty much weekly for sure. Either lives or some type of content being posted, and here to help just bring a little bit more education to the financial realm. Or if you guys have any questions or comments, make sure to respond, and we'll be happy to either make a video about it or leave a comment responding to you.
100%. If you guys want to find me, it's financial underscore ownership. My actual name is Pascal, but that's my Instagram name. And if you look at me in YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, basically all the platforms, you can put financial ownership, you should be able to find me. And if you have questions on how to protect and grow assets and safe way to hedge against market risk, tax risk, and everything, feel free to book a free discovery call and we could find out how we could help you.
Exactly. Appreciate you for having me, and we'll be back with them on Wednesday, same time.
Yep, yep.
Alrighty. Have a good one.
All right, man.
Peace.